Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am Muhajir Buikizo, commerce teacher. Today I wish to revise with the students of Form 2 some of the contents in Form 1, which is production, but our main concern will be on the cost of production. Our learning objectives will be based on the definition of production, classification of the cost of production, as well as the calculation of the total cost, average cost, and marginal cost. Let's start at the meaning of the cost of production. Cost of production is the money spent by the firm to buy the factors of production. This means the expenses incurred by the firm in running the business or undergoing production activities. For example, the money which is spent by the school to run different school activities such as remuneration to staff salaries, buying of school chalks, pens, etc. So that as examples of the costs of production. Now, the classification or types of costs of production. We have two types of costs of production. And the first one is implicit cost or indirect cost. The implicit cost or indirect cost are the benefits foregone or sacrificed by the firm after making choice due to the scarcity of resources. For example, if a peasant produces maize in his piece of land, mean that he will sacrifice other benefits that he could obtain by producing other crops such as rice or banana. The second one is explicit cost or direct cost, and the explicit cost is the money which is actually spent by the firm in buying the factors of production. I know that we are all aware on the factors of production, that when we talk on the factors of production, we simply mean labor, land, capital, and entrepreneurship. But also, the explicit cost is categorized into two different types of costs. The first one is the fixed cost, while the other one is the variable cost. Now, what is the fixed cost? The fixed cost, sometimes prime or overhead costs, are the costs which does not change with the change in the level of output. These costs must be incurred even when the production has not taken place. So mean that these costs paid by the firm even when the firm has not engaged in any production of goods or services. A good example of those costs are the cost of hiring a land or the interest for using a capital. Now, this is an example of a fixed cost schedule. You can see here that when a firm produces at the output level 1, pay the total fixed cost of 20 shillings. But also, when the production increase from 0Q1 up to 0Q2, which is 2, the firm pay the same amount, which is 20 shillings. This can be depicted by the graph here. We call it a total fixed cost curve. You can see here that from the 0 output level up to the 3 level, the firm still pay the same amount of total fixed cost, which is 20. So even when produce at 1, pay the same amount, which is 20. When the production increase up to 2, the firm still pay the same amount, which is 20. And when goes on up to 3 and so forth, so the firm will pay the same amount, and your graph will look like this. The second one is the variable costs. What are the variable costs? These are the costs which change with the change in the level of output. It simply means that when the level of output increase, also a firm incur much costs of variable. It means that when a production increases, also these costs increase. For example, a firm incurs more costs such as buying raw materials, transport charges, wages to unskilled labor, electricity costs, etc. So when a firm increases the level of output, we simply expect to increase also the rate of these costs, such as wages to unskilled labor, electricity costs, etc. Now, example of a total variable cost schedule is this one here, that you can see a firm can never be able to pay the variable cost if he produced nothing. This cost incurred when production taking place. As you can see that at the output level 1, the firm pay 18 shillings of total variable cost. But when this production increase from 0Q1 up to 0Q2, also this total variable cost increase from 18 to 32 shillings. This can be showed by the graph here. As you can see that at a zero output level, a firm pay zero variable cost, meaning that there is no any variable cost incurred when a firm has not produced. But when a firm produces 1 unity of output, incur 18 cost of variable cost. When this output increases from 0Q1 up to 0Q2, we expect to incur more costs of variable from 18 up to 32 costs. So mean that your graph will slope downward from right to left. Now, total cost, average cost, and the marginal cost of production. First of all, let's try to find the meaning of the total cost. Total cost, this refers to the sum of all costs of production, mean that is the summation of both implicit cost and the explicit cost. As you can see here, the total cost is the sum of implicit cost when added with the explicit cost. But what is implicit cost? What is explicit cost? Explicit cost is the sum of total fixed cost plus total variable cost. So mean that you can say that total cost equals to implicit cost plus total fixed cost and the total variable cost. But assume that implicit cost is constant, hence mean that it will be equal to 0. So total cost will be equals to 0 plus total fixed cost plus total variable cost. So mean that this 0 won't function at all. Our total fixed cost will be equals to total fixed cost plus total variable cost. This is the explanation of the abbreviation that TC means total cost, I is implicit cost, E explicit cost, TFC equals to total fixed cost, TVC equals to total variable costs. Now, consider this schedule here that we have 6 levels of output, total fixed cost, total variable cost, as well as the total cost. Remember that at a 0 output level, there is no any variable cost will be paid. So mean that at the 0 output level, the total variable cost will also be equals to 0. But at the 0 output level, a firm will carry on paying the fixed cost. Hence, at a 0 output level, total fixed cost will be equals to total variable cost, because it's the same as we can say that is 50 plus 0 here. Mean that the answer will be 50 here. Now, at 0 output level 1, we pay the 15 variable cost. So how we can be able to determine the total fixed cost here and the total cost here? Remember, we agree with each other that the total fixed cost are the costs which does not change with the change in the level of output, as you can see here. That a firm still pay the same amount of cost, 20, under all levels of production. So mean that it's the same here, that if here there is 50, we expect the firm will pay 50 at this level, 50 at this level, 50 at this level, and the remaining levels. So mean that our task will remain on how to determine the total cost. So mean that at the level 1, you will take 50 plus 15. Here you will get the 65. At level 2, here there is a 50 plus 25. You will put the answer here. At level 3 will be 50 plus 34. You will put the answer here. And the remaining sides. Now, our graph will look like this, as you can see here. The total cost can never be equal to 0 because of the total fixed cost, that a firm will carry on paying the total fixed cost even when production has stopped. But the total variable cost will start from 0 because you can never pay for them until you produce the goods. So this is how our graph will look like. But remember that at the 0 output, 0 Q1, you will pay 60, 0 Q2, you will pay 60, 0 Q3, 60, up to 0 Q9, you will still pay the same amount, which is 60 shillings of the total fixed cost. So this is a graph for the total cost. Now,